Welcome to another episode of Flix List here on WHYR LP 96.9 FM, Baton Rouge Community Radio. That's pretty good, right?
That was great, man. That was great.
You always do
Bravo.
that the best.
Bravo.
All right, so I'm DJ Clay,
I'm Chewy.
And I'm RCL.
and we're here to take you through a half hour of mesmerizing
Movie bliss.
film-gasm.
Reviews of all sorts.
Yes.
All right, so the first movie we're going to review is a movie called Good Dick. It stars Jason Ritter and Mariana Polka. Mariana actually directed and wrote it as well. This is a very low-budget film, probably in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and it shows. It really shows.
I kind of want to start this one off by saying usually we try not to do negative reviews because this is a review show trying to get you to watch movies and things like that you may not watch normally. And so if we're going to sit here and bash a movie that you're not going to watch anyway,
What's the point?
What's
of
the
that?
point?
Thank you for directing me away from that movie that I would have never ever watched.
I feel this is needed to be reviewed because the reviews on Netflix are positive, and I don't know why.
I think it might be propaganda. Disseminated by the
filmmakers
themselves. Filmmaker. I don't really think that, but I love to believe that it's possible.
It's just a conspiracy on Netflix. Just a bunch of their friends.
This movie was extremely weak.
It was horribly weak, if you wanted to be so bold.
I want to be bold.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it competed in the 2008 Sundance Film Festival, which it competed. It was a competition film.
Which is not the easiest of feats. Not just anything can be.
Although after watching this film, it seems like anything could be brought in.
Well, let's give us a little plot summary.
Jason Ritter plays a video store clerk who, I guess, falls in love. Do we want to say that much? With a recluse.
I would say more obsessed.
Right.
Becomes
Yeah.
obsessed with.
Yeah, this recluse woman who comes in and only rents softcore porn. That's all she ever rents. She comes in every week, rents 3 or 4 new softcore porns, and eventually he decides to talk to her and try to bring her out, and then start stalking her.
Yeah. Does really creepy things that would land you in jail.
Now, here's the problem for me with this, and it's the fact that your hero in a story needs to be relatable. As a screenwriter, it's really important whenever you've got a hero that if they're not overtly the knight in shining armor, then you need to make them relatable to your audience so that we can forgive their less than shining choices. Now, the problem is the main character here makes crazy choices, like just straight up stalking this girl, like using social engineering tactics to get buzzed into her apartment complex and just waiting outside of her apartment. Just crazy stuff.
Looking up her address from the rental thing and going to that address.
So not only is our hero being creepy, but he's being creepy about a girl that we would rather our hero stay away from.
Yeah.
We have no interest in our hero pursuing this girl. So now we've got a hero that we don't care about pursuing a girl that we don't want him to pursue.
Exactly. And here's the problem. Something like that could be pulled off if it was the intention of the filmmaker, but you get the distinct feeling throughout this movie that the intention of the filmmaker was to actually make him relatable, to root for him, and to, I get the sense that she wanted him to be a quirky, lovable guy, but instead he's a weird, detestable guy.
Which, as I mentioned earlier, Mariana, the woman who stars as the film as the recluse porn addict, also direct and wrote this film, and I think that the film probably suffered from that. I know Clay.
I agree.
Or Clay talks about that a lot. In that,
one of my major philosophies is that young directors, as an aspiring director myself, I will say, young directors take on too much, and it can hurt them. And there's several examples of exceptions to this rule, but ultimately when somebody says, oh yeah, I'm a writer, director, actor, producer, you know that they're probably not very good at any of those things because
they're spreading themselves too thin.
Each of those jobs is a full-time job. And yeah, you very much get the sense from this film that this full-time job got divided. 3 full-time jobs got loaded onto one person, and each of them suffered because of this.
Absolutely, and I think that other problems coinciding with that cropped up, such as the script itself was just it came off to be a very weak plotted story. There are certain things that we as humans respond to in stories. We respond to stories being written a certain way with certain plot points at certain points in the story because that's how we as humans experience life. It's what we respond to, it's what we relate to. It's overcoming obstacles. It's our plight getting more and more difficult to the point where it seems bleak and something that we can't overcome, and then triumphing, overcoming. That's what we relate to.
Or not triumphing and overcoming, which is totally acceptable, but then,
absolutely.
Right, it ends with a wedding or a funeral.
And this didn't really have the structure needed to captivate the audience and keep us interested.
No, not at all. There was not a single moment in this movie in which I was interested.
That's saying something. From the first second until we turned it off.
Right. Well, and that's the thing we were talking about before the show is that we all had trouble making it through this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a chore.
You know, I did not want to finish. And typically when I say I didn't want a movie to end, I mean I wanted it to go on forever.
Yeah.
And this one I didn't want it to get to the end because I wanted it to end right
now. I wanted something to go wrong with my TV. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to just blow up and I could my dog ate this homework.
I just assumed maybe perhaps I could have a heart attack and,
escape this. All right, so I think we've dragged this review out long enough. So, out of 5 stars, Clay?
1.5.
My question here.
I mean, they shot a whole movie. That's pretty impressive.
They did achieve making a movie, which not everyone can do. My question is, does the mere fact that we are rating in the level of stars, does that necessitate the presence of stars? I guess is what I'm asking.
Dude, give it 0.
I'll
give you a high five right now if you give it a 0.
I'm giving it 0.
Yes. 0 stars. Wow. All right. I see. I was gonna go with half a star because I didn't think, but I'm gonna go with 0 stars as well.
Good man.
I can't. Please don't torture yourself.
Or do it.
Do if you.
But that's the thing. I would love for somebody who loves this movie to email us. I'll be thrilled, and I won't make fun of you. I do. I would love to know the other side of this.
Oh, absolutely.
I would love to know what it is about this movie that makes people
always
like it.
open.
Yeah. If you ever disagree with one of our reviews, please tell us. 'Cause I think that's a very interesting point to make. That we're always open to. No matter how bad we dog a movie or how bad we love a movie, always open to the other perspective of that.
Yeah, and that's ultimately one of the beauties of film is that we can express our individual tastes. We can express humanity and in an artistic way that some people don't agree with, and that's great. That's fine.
That was poetic, dude.
Yeah, this is way too serious for this show.
That being said, that movie sucks.
All right. So the next movie, or it's not even a movie, it's a miniseries that I wanted to review was The Kennedys.
Breaking out of the mold.
Yeah. We've done that a couple of times. I don't know if y'all remember a week ago, but we've done TV shows before.
I don't listen to you when you talk.
I hardly listen to myself.
It's like he's talking. My turn.
When is he gonna shut up?
So
the Kennedys.
Kennedys, yeah.
You just said the word, so I'm sure there's a controversy somewhere brewing.
Of course, the Kennedys, everybody knows, is the closest thing we have in America to our royalty, I suppose. They did a 8-episode miniseries of each were about 45 minutes long. It was originally supposed to air on the History Channel, and they wrote the scripts, they shot everything, and then the History Channel, after approving everything, the script, the cuts, everything, decided at the last minute to not air it. So they had to shop it around for a little while.
And it found a home at
Reel's channel.
That's Reels with a Z.
Which, I would say it's unfortunate, but I feel like it got more critical acclaim because it landed on that channel. It ends up being it's an Emmy Award winning now. If anybody watched the Emmys, I guess a week ago, it won a bunch of awards at the Emmys.
Tell us who's in this.
Greg Kinnear stars as JFK. He is also accompanied by Katie Holmes, who plays Jacqueline Kennedy. Both of them do phenomenal performances. It's really great. I went back and listened and watched some Kennedy speeches. It was really amazing how well Greg Kinnear did in pulling off JFK. Awesome. Yeah, he is great.
I've got to say, I haven't watched this. That being said, I watched one episode with you last night when we happened to be hanging out, and I was kind of blown away by the voice acting. Like the accuracy of their voices.
Their voices,
voices was phenomenal.
Yeah, it must have had an amazing dialect coach. Barry Pepper, who plays Robert Kennedy, or Bobby, as many people know him, he is like it's amazing. It is like it is like Bobby came back from the dead and played himself. It's great.
All right, so there was a bit of controversy to get this on the air. It gets on the air. It's got great cast. It wins Emmys. Just in general, what did you get the feel of? Was this a well-made?
It was very well made. They sort of start the story. The story jumps back and forth from the 1930s with Joe Kennedy, the dad, starting his empire, and he becomes the ambassador to the United States ambassador from the United States to overseas. Whenever Hitler is rising to power, advocates that America should not join the war, and that people start to believe that he's a Hitler supporter, especially when it comes out that Hitler is as what he's really trying to do. So that sort of ruins Joe as the ambassador, because Joe wanted to be president, and then it sort of shows how he pushes his son to realize the dream that he never could. And it also is very interesting that while I don't want to offend anybody who loves JFK, I think for the very short time that he was in office, which was
monumental,
it was incredible. You basically changed the direction of this nation. But all that being said, the show shows how much Bobby was kind of the president, or at least very much his right-hand man. Right. Bobby Kennedy was the Attorney General, and he started after a really bad, the Bay of Pigs. I don't know if y'all know. That's where, yeah. They were gonna invade Cuba and try and take it over.
But then they released a bunch of pigs in San Francisco Bay. Is that what?
No.
No? Okay,
no.
Go ahead.
Okay, no. Anyway, the point being, it was a sort of this historical fiasco, and after that happened, Bobby Kennedy was the Attorney General, who only deals with domestic affairs, starts dealing with foreign affairs with JFK so that he won't mess up again.
So, but it sounds like they're painting a very human picture of these guys that
this royal family of
idolize.
America,
yeah. Even with all the controversy surrounding the family, there is a sort of untouchable feel to it.
Yeah.
And they paint them in a very human, fallible light.
Yeah, they bring them down. It highlights how JFK had really bad back problems and was drugged up for most of his presidency.
Wow. Painkillers?
Yeah, painkillers.
He's taking these crazy drugs to deal with his medical conditions that were probably attempted to be hidden from the general public.
Oh, very much so. He had three doctors, and actually one of them wasn't officially a doctor. He was a doctor in Germany, and then came over here because all the things that happened with World War II, and just was the president's sort of drug dealer. Wow. For lack of a better word,
It's awesome. Because I was reading an article in Keith Richards the other day and talking about how they would have doctors come around and prescribe them things. Wow. But it really kind of tickles my fancy that everybody had one of those in the 60s.
Yeah, pretty much.
From
Even
the president down to the housewives,
It's a fascinating phenomenon. Even as three non-drug users, it's an interesting thing to look at as something that actually existed in our history.
A cultural relevance.
I had a pretty hardcore ibuprofen addiction for a while there.
I thought we were putting that in the past.
I'm sorry. I'm opening old wounds. Okay. Well, anyway, and then they also address the affairs that JFK
Yeah. So
had.
was Marilyn Monroe a part of this show?
Oh yes, she was. That was actually maybe the one part of the show that I thought the acting was a little off. And I'm hesitant to say that because she didn't do a terrible job. I mean, you certainly believe that she could be Marilyn Monroe, but I felt there was it was a little bit two-dimensional. But I guess if you're trying to show that this homewrecker version of Marilyn Monroe who was obsessed with JFK, and then also trying to sleep with Bobby Kennedy, I felt like it was a very two-dimensional portrayal of Marilyn.
Yeah, but she was really more of a plot device.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, how deep are you going to get in the dynamics of a character who's...
Yeah, you're covering basically 20 years of the Kennedy family in 8 episodes.
Yeah.
I guess you can only cover so much.
We can forgive them.
Right, absolutely. But it was very interesting. The famous birthday scene, or thing of like.
I was hoping that might be in there.
No, it's not. It's really not like the Happy Birthday, Mr. President is not in there. I really thought they were going to put that in there, but they didn't. And you're welcome, ladies. By the way.
I was about to say, good job singing there, buddy. Thanks for doing that.
All right. So do you have out of 5 stars? What do you?
I'm gonna give 4.5 stars.
Wow,
that's great.
I mean, I would want to give it 5, but it's just, I mean, it's hard to reach perfection, and there were some problems that I had, but none worth mentioning. So it's a great miniseries, now Emmy Award-winning miniseries.
The Kennedys, available on your Netflix Instant Queue.
Next film we're gonna review is Microcosmos. Chewy, you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, definitely. It's this very interesting French documentary, and I know by telling you it's a French documentary, you're already on the edge of your seat.
You're just rushing home.
Yeah, I'm quitting my job to go watch this movie right now, is what you're saying. It's really interesting. It's some beautiful cinematography, shots of bugs, and just watching them function in their everyday life. It's got some interesting musical scores accompanying it, but the interesting thing about it is the distinct, noticeable lack of a narrator.
Yeah, it's very much like something you would watch on the History Channel and expect Morgan Freeman to be telling you what's happening, or why it's happening, or what's going to happen next.
Exactly. The whole time you're hoping Morgan Freeman's going to pipe up because it's exactly what you expect.
Or Ripley from Aliens telling you. You do. I say want, and it's not there, and you want it not in a negative way, but certainly in a like you're expecting it, and this
almost
might be
like
an American
thing. We've been trained to expect that Sigourney Weaver, Morgan Freeman voice whenever we're having animals humanized to us.
This is a very interesting film, in that I would say it's more like a moving piece of art than a movie.
Yeah.
You say that because we talk so much about structure on this show. We talked about it on this show. I mean, so you want to say that in that the movie seemed to not fulfill your need for structure, but still very much fulfilled a pleasurable experience.
It was, I mean, it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
The images were so crisp and clear, and what was really impressive to me is that this was done in 1996.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you would think like the crisp. It was almost like high def before there was really high def.
It's
and
striking.
They're doing microscopic filming as well. These bugs are not being filmed with giant 35 millimeter cameras.
Right. They're just little tiny.
All right, so that's fairly incredible. So you're saying you expect a narrator and you don't get one. You expect.
I mean, it's not that you don't get one. There is a very sparse narrator that basically says, "I'm going to shut up and let you just enjoy," and you're kind of like, "Well."
And so
they're not spoon feeding you.
Right.
Exactly, and that gives you the opportunity to understand and project your own understanding of human plight in these animals, in these insects, actually. You read into what's going on based on your experience as a human being. So it gives you a bit of emotional attachment. You see like a protective mother or some predator, someone trying to get food, and you feel for them.
Or snails making love.
Oh, wow.
There's
Epic.
An entire sequence of snails.
That's so creepy.
Having sex, I guess. I don't know. I guess
it grossed me out quite a bit, actually.
It didn't gross me out, but it was certainly like not something I am akin to seeing.
In high def, beautiful.
Wow.
Definition.
What do you think the audience for this movie is? I mean, if you are a nature lover, this suddenly becomes a must-see, huh?
Oh, absolutely. If you love watching those shows like the Planet
Earth
or
and,
whatever, this is absolutely for you. This is an incredible look at very, very close up look at the life of insects.
A world we never see.
This is what's happening in your backyard right now.
If you had an ant farm as a kid that you loved, this is your movie.
Mm-hmm. It's also Roger Ebert had an interesting thing about saying that children being built nearer to the ground and having more time on their hands are close observers of spiders and ants and butterflies and caterpillars, but adults tune them out. Bugs are things you slap, swat, step on, or spray. Microcosmos is an amazing film that allows us to peer deeper into the insect world and marvel at the creatures we casually condemn into squashing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's why he gets paid to do what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what a review is supposed to be?
That's what a review is supposed to sound like.
I'm ashamed of myself. That's the smartest thing that's ever going to get said on this show.
Absolutely. It's called the Jurassic Park for bugs.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. If you blow up bugs, big enough, they do become like little monsters. So, all right, well, that's awesome. I'm glad. I didn't see this one, but I'm gonna rush home and see it. Do you guys want to do out of 5 stars on this masterpiece?
Well, as I always refer to Roger Ebert, who's sort of the Michael Jordan of movie reviewers, he has an out of 4-star system, and he gave it 4 stars.
Oh wow!
I feel like I can't star this movie. Not because it's bad or it's not. I'm not giving it 0 stars before, but just because I don't. It was just like it'd be like rating a piece of art.
It's something that washed over you as an experience, as opposed to something that you're ready to dissect critically.
Right, exactly.
Wow, that's an interesting point.
I think I'm going to agree with you there because as I was just sitting here thinking about how to rate it, I felt like I wanted to give it 3.5, only because I was very disappointed at the lack of a narrator, which is probably a cultural choice or some other thing that has a very distinct reason. So I accept that, I understand it, but the way it hit me, the way that I ultimately experienced it in a second-to-second basis, I was a little disappointed because of that expectation, but I almost feel guilty, like there's no way I can give this below 4 stars. And so I'm torn. I'm torn between the two, and I feel like that's a good point, that it's a different thing altogether.
It's French, guys. They're not a culture that gives a flying rat's behind whether or not you understand what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an art culture.
Fair enough.
Well, that's awesome. We have an unrateable movie. I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, that's it for our show. Thanks so much for listening to Flix List here on WHYR LP 96.9 FM, Baton Rouge Community Radio.
God, we've blathered on for 30 minutes already.